Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for March 21, 2023, the Cancel Spring Break Edition. I know this is not a compliance story, but I just could not believe it when I read in the Wall Street Journal that Miami Beach wants to cancel spring break. Reason? It's too rowdy, brings too much disorder, and is simply too difficult to police. Jesus Christ. They've been saying that since the 50s about spring break. In Miami Beach, the beacon of party town apparently can't keep spring breakers in order. Imagine that. Drunk guys and girls. Really. Just pathetic. Next up from the BBC, a South African corruption investigator was shot dead and murdered, who had been investigating high-level corruption. He worked as a liquidator for firms linked to the wealthy Gupta brothers, and police are investigating the crime. So corruption investigation is certainly deadly in South Africa. Next up, from the Financial Times, Credit Suisse bondholders are in an uproar over a $17 billion debt wipeout. The European Central Bank raised concerns after the rescue deal by rival UBS wiped out some $17 billion of the failed Credit Suisse bank's bonds, upending debt recovery norms and undermining financial confidence. A fund manager said it is against, he believes, in his eyes, quote, it is against the law, end quote. But that's what happens when somebody goes bankrupt. The bondholders get wiped out sometimes. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Swiss government lets that play out. And then finally, in yet another major corruption story about Venezuela, as reported in Reuters, Venezuela's oil minister said on Monday he will resign, and at least 6 officials were arrested following investigations into corruption at the state-owned energy company, PDVSA. Venezuela's Anna-Graft police arrested a mayor, 2 judges, and 3 government officials, 2 whom were connected to PDVSA. So PDVSA continues the reigning title as the world's most corrupt energy company, even besting Pemex in Mexico. And the PDVSA officials, current and former, continue to be prosecuted for corruption involving the energy company going forward. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.